Welcome back everybody to BeamNG.drive, and today we're taking a look at another mod that has been added to the game, and yeah, this is the Ibishu Claria. Now I feel like it's kind of aping on the Nissan Gloria, which was a car that was produced between 1959 and 2004, and if you look at this, I think the 4th or the 5th generation, it looks somewhat similar to this, so yeah, and it's a fantastic looking mod overall, to be honest. As you can see, all looks very professional in a lot of ways. And that extends to the interior as well. As you can see, very nice looking. All plenty of detail going on. All very nice. So yeah, this is a car that has a 2.6 litre inline 6 engine. Produces 154 horsepower and 170 pounds-feet of torque. Weighs 3,274 pounds. So by no means the heaviest car that we've ever seen on this game, but it's easily one of the heavier Ibishu versions of a car that we've seen. Has rear-wheel drive, a 3-speed automatic gearbox, and this version was produced between 1976 and 1979. And it's more specifically the Lux 2600 Clari-Matic. So yeah, all very nicely done. So yeah, as per usual, we're going to get it around this suspension area, see how much it can take before it breaks, and yeah, then we'll roll it over, blow it up, and put it through a wall. So yeah, let's get started. So yeah, that gearbox does sap the power a little bit, but it's a luxury version, so automatic gearboxes are the name of the game in such a model, especially from the 70s, where luxury in a lot of ways meant not having to do anything, and you don't have to do anything with an automatic, so, or at least not as much as you would with a manual. So it's got very bouncy suspension, as you can see. Seems to have taken that okay. Oh well, we've broken a window at the rear, and we've bent up at the bumper and the bonnet, but most of it seems okay for now. No real extra damage there. Let's go on this bit. Oh dear. Kind of grounding out a little bit there. Breaking more windows. We seem to have lost a bit of suspension at the front by the looks of things. Oh dear, we've broken a wheel. That did not take very long. Oh, there goes the radiator, and the other wheel, and then we're done. Yeah, there's no control from this anymore, as emphasised by the fact that we've rolled over. So, yeah, the wheels are definitely the weak point, so that's not giving me the greatest of hopes for the rollover sled, because that is a wheel breaker in a lot of ways, so yeah, if this survives 3 goes, I'll be surprised. Yeah, let's get there and see what happens. So yeah, as you can see, despite being a 3-speed automatic, it's not particularly slow. 0 to 60 is dealt with in 8.6 seconds, and 0 to 100 is dealt with in 27.8 seconds, and it'll go to a top speed of around 115, which is pretty decent for a, you know, a large luxurious boat of a vehicle. So yeah, it's pretty good. Unlike the last vehicle that we looked at on this game, the that supercar, hypercar, this is easily able to get up onto the ramp. So let's see what it deals with, or can deal with, should I say. So yeah, got to look out for those wheels, because like I said, I think they're going to be the weak point. I've already bent one of the front wheels. rolls over really nicely. Kind of like that Ford Sierra estate car that was used on Top Gear for a rollover stunt. It broke the world record at that time. We'll turn the engine off just so we don't harm it from oil starvation. But yeah, the wheels seem to have held up mostly okay. Obviously one of them has bent, but that's not going to stop us from steering at least, so there is that. So at least it survived the one go, which, to be honest, I wasn't expecting. Right, let's get this turned and put back on the ramp. Yeah, we're not bothered about the exhaust being damaged. That is not a vital part for this kind of experiment. Or test, whatever you want to call it. Right. First bit of real damage to the roof there. Does roll really rather nicely. It's something I always appreciate in a mod, to be honest. Well, coming hard on that left wheel there seems to have stopped us from rolling over. And doesn't seem to have done any more wheel damage than what was already there. So yeah, despite a bit of roof damage on this side, on the driver's side. Obviously we've lost the exhaust from getting on the ramp before. Don't seem to have taken too much more damage, which is good. Can it survive one more go though? One way to find out. Wheels bent up even more now. The roof seems to be reasonably strong for a car of this age and type. And again we come hard down on one of the wheels, which just slows us from rolling over any further. So yeah, we seem to have survived that. We still steer, we still drive. Obviously don't steer as well as we used to when we don't drive in a straight line anymore, but we're still moving, and yeah, that's fine by me. So yeah, surprisingly this survived, and survived really, really well. That's probably one of the strongest cars that we've had on this series on the rollover ramp, especially one that is as old as it is. So yeah, let's see if we can survive the explosive barrels. Should get up to 60. Just about. Right. Oh, that's ripped off a fair bit of the front of the car. Lost a rear wing, a front wing should I say. The bumper, the radiator, the drive line has gone, so we're not going to be driving anywhere. Yeah, that's took a lot of punishment there. Drive line most likely went because the engine was forced upwards from the explosion. How are we going to land though? Land on the front. Yeah, the whole chassis is bent from that. As you can see, once again, the roof is holding up really rather nicely, despite coming right back down on it from that height. It survived really well. The rest of the car, though, has not, as you can see, because we're not going to be driving anywhere, for instance. And yeah, even though the engine still works, it wouldn't for very long with the radiator going. The boot lid is ripped off, and yeah. But as far as, you know, safety of the driver and the passengers, think that's overall a pass. It's just a shame that the car itself hasn't survived. And yeah, it's been torn asunder, quite frankly, at the front, as you can see. Right, now let's see if we can survive through the cinder block wall. They should do well here. Most cars do. Yep, that's fine. As per usual with this crash test, the front does take the brunt of it and seems to have dealt with that fine. It is always a concern that a cinder block being dragged under the car can do further damage, but that hasn't been the case this time. And there we go. So yeah, the radiator is leaking, and yeah, we might well have hit the oil sump there with one of the bricks underneath the car, but still, it drives and steers. So yeah, again, a pass, and especially since again the driver and the passengers would have been fine in that. So, yeah, the interior hasn't really been touched. So yeah, overall impressive there. I'm not going to give it a pass for the suspension area because its wheels went far too quickly, but I think the other three do get a pass, so 3 out of 4 is pretty solid. So let's move on to the crash hall, where we'll do a 30, 40 and 60 mile an hour small overlap crash test and see just how well it does. So let's get there. Right, so here we are at the crash hall. So as per usual, we're going to do a small overlap crash test at 3 different speeds, see just how much this car can take. So yeah, 30 mile an hour, I think pretty much every car has survived this. So I am expecting the same from this, given, you know, it's put up a fair old fight so far, and obviously it has quite a lot of metal between us and the rest of the car, so yeah, it should do perfectly well here. I do wish the lighting in this was a little bit better, but regardless, yeah, that's fine. Obviously the passenger window has smashed, but it's the only real sign of any deformation outside of a slightly warped door, but that would still probably open. So yeah, I think as you can see, it still dries perfectly well, although it does pull to the left a little bit. Obviously the radiator has gone, but yeah, overall that is a pass. So yeah, let's ramp it up to 40. See if we do any better. Does seem to have a really rather a good drive line on this, because it's able to maintain a straight line really easily. Oh, that's a bit more punishing this time around. We've lost the drive shaft, so we're not going to be driving anywhere. Even if we were, that front left wheel has been pushed right the way back. But there's been really little intrusion on the interior. The door again has warped, and the windscreen has the window has cracked and smashed. But yeah, seems perfectly fine inside. But obviously we do not drive anywhere because we've lost the drive shaft. But as far as everyone inside goes, they'd be fine. So yeah, the big test now, 60 miles an hour. Most cars have failed this, which is kind of predictable. Cars really aren't meant to survive these kind of impacts. Generally they're tested up until 40 or 30 miles an hour. And here we go. Oh dear. Oh dear indeed. That's definitely a fail. Yeah, that is a catastrophic failure. so much energy that the car itself at the rear is lifted up. Yeah, that is a failure, no doubt about that. If you were the, if this was a left-hand drive version, you'd have been dead driving this. Your passenger would definitely be dead, and I think even as the driver, you'd definitely be dead because of, even if there was an airbag, which there isn't, the steering wheel has jotted to the right, so you'd miss it. Yeah, all you'd be faced with is a hard dashboard. So yeah, that is a fail. But no surprise, it is a near 50-year-old car, and yeah, it's dealing with speeds that even most modern cars wouldn't survive. So yeah, but it is interesting to see a vehicle in that kind of shape after such an impact, because it shows how the car is weak in certain areas. And yeah, being on that side, I mean, at that speed means it's as weak as it is due to the door not being particularly well suited. As you can see, it's having a bit of an off fit there. But yeah, obviously the chassis has weakened, and then the roof has weakened as well, and that's all combined to push a lot of the car backwards. So yeah, not a great showing there, but still 2 out of 3 is better than a lot of vehicles, so there is that. So yeah, let's finally get to the highway and see how this deals in a 60-mile-an-hour impact against 2 similarly sized and similarly weighted vehicles, and then one that really isn't. Right, so here we are at the highway. So we're going to go up against the Bruchel Legrand first, because that weighs exactly the same as this in the version that we've chosen. So yeah, let's see how it deals with a 60-mile-an-hour impact against this car. So this is a towing package version, so it's a little bit, heavier than the normal one. So let's see what happens. Pretty much dead on. Yeah, that's pretty much dead on. Oh, obviously the Bruchel's a lot newer, and that has come off better. Not by a huge margin, but it's definitely come off better. Yeah, that is not, come down on our side whatsoever. Yeah. As you can see, the driver would be no more of this, whereas in the Bruchel, yeah, they were at least got some survivability there. Obviously the passenger a little bit less so. Obviously the Bruchel is a newer car, but yeah, it's remarkable how much of a difference there is between these two, just considering they're the same weight and they're going at the same speed and they've virtually hit each other head on. And yeah, that's unfortunately a failure for the Claria there. It's not what I was expecting, to be honest, but there we go. Right, let's find one that is slightly lighter, see if it does any better in that kind of regard. Let's have a look. Let's try out the Prodigy. I know all of these say this weigh the same at 2,866 pounds, but that's unlikely. It's just the mod creator hasn't really emphasised on the differences in weight. So we're going to go for the 2.2 EX4 because it's got slightly higher ground clearance than we do. So maybe that will be a a reasonable change in the crash dynamics. So let's find out. And obviously this is even newer than even the Legrand. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what this can do in comparison to that as well. Right, so again, 60 miles an hour. So mod versus mod, who's going to win? So, right down. Obviously the Prodigy is a slightly taller car, and that seems to have worked in its favour because not even the bonnet has been barely touched. And again, we are having our seats launched right the way forward into dashboard and steering wheel. Yeah, this car does not seem to like head-on crashes. I mean, this Prodigy was hit so much energy its rear tailgate has opened. But as you can see, the rest of the car seems to have held up okay. I mean, it's even still got rear wheel drive, even if the front wheels are barely holding on. But yeah, as you can see in here, pretty much the same. The seat has moved, but the steering wheel hasn't launched forward. And yeah, you can see how much higher the Prodigy is over the Claria by the fact its bonnet is virtually intact. You saw it there in the crash, it just opened up and just pretty much sived over the rest of the Claria. Whereas the Claria has, yeah, taken up the entire force of that crash pretty much. And again, the driver's seat is right up against the steering wheel. The passenger seat has moved forward and those doors would not open with ease. So yeah, again, that is another failure. That is a surprise. Usually some cars on this, you know, these reviews that I do, survive at least one of the first two impacts because they're around the same weight or less. So what the hell's going to happen when we hit it with a car that is even heavier? Let's find out. So yeah, we saw how the Prodigy dealt with that with its slightly higher ground clearance. So let's see what happens when we have even greater ground clearance and go for an off-road version of the Roma. As you can see, it weighs 5,930 pounds, so we're talking nearly twice the amount of the Claria. And again, like the other two like the Prodigy, this is also newer. So yeah, this is going to be devastating, I imagine. Ooh, whoa. What the hell? Whoa. I think we're going to try that again. Just because I don't think we're dead on. We know the Claria has a really good drive line, so it stays practically straight. It's the Roma I have more issues with because has none of the driving line. It's just an off-road vehicle that has the kind of suspension that encourages moving all over the place. Yeah, that's a bit fairer. Oh, riding right the way over it. Yeah, once again the steering wheel has hit the driver's seat. I mean, at least it's not rolled over like the Roma, but then again it has a roll cage and has barely been touched inside from that front impact. Hell, it even still drives. So yeah, the Claria there, after you know a solid run to start with, you know, it had 5 out of what 7. Because it only really failed on the suspension area and on the 60 mile an hour over that small crash test. So it was on a good run, and it's just had a 3 out of 3 fail on this bit, and can't quite work out why. But maybe that's just because, you know, it's better when it's dealing with its own, you know, thing rather than the weight and the speed of another vehicle. So yeah, bit of a shame there. So yeah, only 5 out of 10, which yeah, isn't the worst by any means. We've certainly seen a lot worse from other cars, but usually they've been smaller, lighter, and yeah, well renowned for their bad safety. So the fact that this car had a good run to start with and then just completely fallen flat on this last bit is a bit of a shame, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. And yeah, at the end of the day, this is another fantastic mod that holds up really rather well to crashes, high impact crashes. Doesn't, you know, glitch out or anything like that. Obviously it's got some elements to it that will glitch out. I mean, there's a speedometer needle for instance, but you know, that's something that's common amongst other vehicles as well, so it's nothing I'm going to select this car over, because at the end of the day it is a fantastic mod and it crashes nicely and it's fun to drive into things and just normally. So yeah, nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.